What is this chunk of Soviet tractor metal? I can't even read the scope markings. Is this a reticle or a Cyrillic crossword puzzle? Corporal Jenkins laughed as he dropped the heavy wooden stock Dragunov SVD onto the shooting bench. The rifle clattered, its stamped steel receiver smacking against the concrete. Round him, the Rangers snickered. They were elite shooters trained on state-of-the-art M110s and Remingtons with optics that cost more than a luxury car. To them, the captured weapon's range day was a comedy show, an excuse to toy with relics. Standing in the background with a broom in one hand and a trash bag in the other was 77-year-old Vlad, the range custodian, a quiet, silver-haired man with a limp and a thick accent, mostly ignored by the squad, treated like part of the furniture. None of them knew the limp came from shrapnel in Afghanistan, 1982, or that the hands sweeping their cigarette butts had once gripped that very rifle with deadly precision. Look at this trash, Miller scoffed. Terrible ergonomics. The Safed is louder than the gunshot. How did anyone ever hit anything with this thing? He glanced at Vlad, who had stopped sweeping and was staring at the rifle with a deep, haunted sadness. Miller grinned, sensing entertainment. Hey, Vlad, you're from over there, right? The Eastern Bloc. You probably use these things to plow fields. Why don't you show us how this precision instrument works? Laughter erupted. Careful, Sarge, Jenkins joked. He might throw out his hip. Vlad set the broom aside. He wiped his hands on his coveralls and walked slowly to the firing line, his limp more pronounced under their stares. He didn't look at them, only at the rifle. To the Rangers it was a prop. To Vlad, it was an old comrade he had not touched in decades. It is not tractor scrap, Vlad said, his deep, gravelly voice thick with a Slavic accent. It is the SVD, Snaperskaya Vintovka Dragunova, built for war, not for comfort. It does not care if you are tired. It does not care if it is dirty. It simply works. Miller rolled his eyes. Sure, it works. But can you make it shoot? $10 says you can't hit the 400-meter gong. The scope isn't even zeroed. Vlad studied the target, a steel silhouette far downrange. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn black cloth. The scope is irrelevant, he murmured. A rifle is part of the body. If the body is true, the bullet is true. He glanced at Miller. But first, I must greet it properly. He tied the cloth around his eyes. Blindfolded. Jenkins burst out laughing. Okay, he's officially senile. Thinks he's a jetty. Let him try, Miller said with a smirk. This'll go viral on TikTok. Go on, Vlad. Impress us. Vlad stepped to the bench. He stood square to the target, studying it with silent intensity for 10 full seconds, committing it to memory. He inhaled deeply, feeling the wind slide across his skin. Then he pulled the cloth tight over his eyes, letting the world go dark. Suddenly, he wasn't on a sunny American range. He was back in the frozen Hindu Kush, where knowing your weapon in pitch-black darkness meant survival. Time me, Vlad whispered. His hands moved toward the rifle and something changed. The trembling in his aged fingers disappeared. His touch became sharp, confident. Click. The receiver cover popped off. Clack. Out came the recoil spring. Snick. The bolt carrier slid free. The Rangers fell silent, mouths open. Vlad was field stripping the rifle faster than most of them could with their eyes uncovered. His hands were a blur, smooth, practiced, effortless. Twist. The gas piston detached with precision. He laid each component on the concrete in a perfectly aligned row, guided only by touch. Then he checked the gas regulator, adjusting it with the edge of a cartridge he'd plucked from the magazine. He ran his thumb across the firing pin. Dirty, he murmured. You treat her with no respect. Then the reassembly began, and it was even faster than the tear down. Pieces snapped together in a rapid, rhythmic series of clicks like a mechanical drumline. Snap, slide, click, lock. In under 45 seconds, the Dragunov was whole again. Vlad seated the magazine with a firm slap and racked the bolt. This time it slid smoothly, perfectly aligned. Now came the impossible part. Vlad was still blindfolded. He lifted the rifle and didn't bother with the bench rest. Instead, he stood tall, unsupported, shouldering the weapon with the familiarity of an old ritual. He angled his body slightly, relying not on sight but on instinct on his natural point of aim. The Rangers understood the concept, but none had ever taken it to this level. Vlad trusted his muscles. He trusted memory. He trusted experience older than every man watching him. He felt the wind brush his left cheek, 5 miles per hour. He shifted his stance a fraction to the right. He's actually going to shoot, Jenkins whispered, his voice tight with panic. Sarge, stop him. He's gonna send that round over the berm. Miller lifted a hand, but it was already too late. Vlad exhaled, paused at the bottom of his breath. The rifle went utterly still. The 7.62x5 cracked through the air. A sharp muzzle flash cut through the afternoon sun. Vlad didn't move. Not a twitch. He held the follow-through, listening. 1 second. 2 seconds. Clang! The steel gong rang out across the silent range. Every ranger froze. Even the insects seemed to pause. Jenkins scrambled to his spotting scope. No way, he stammered. Center mass. He hit the gong. Blindfolded. Standing. With that junk rifle, Vlad slowly loosened the blindfold and blinked into the sunlight. His face was unreadable. He laid the rifle gently on the bench, patting its worn stock like one strokes a loyal dog. She is not garbage, Vlad said quietly. She only needed a firm hand. Miller could barely speak. His arrogance evaporated. Who are you? He finally managed. You're not just a custodian. No. Another voice answered. The squad snapped to attention instantly. General Holloway, the division commander, had been observing the entire scene. He walked straight to Vlad, then shocked the Rangers by saluting him. Vlad straightened, ignoring his bad hip, and returned the salute with crisp precision. At ease, Holloway ordered. Then he faced the squad. You boys think you're hot stuff because you graduated Ranger School. This man, he placed a hand on Vlad's shoulder, is Vladimir, the Wolf, Surov. A collective gasp rippled across the line. For 20 years, he was the lead instructor of Spetsnaz Alpha Group. He has more operational hours than this entire platoon put together. Holloway held up the Dragunov. In 1991, after the Soviet collapse, he defected. He brought intelligence that saved thousands of American lives during the Gulf War. He helped train our early Special Forces teams in Eastern Bloc doctrine. He is a ghost. And he is a hero. The general turned to Miller. You mocked his rifle. You mocked his age. You handed a weapon to a man who has forgotten more about warfare than you will ever learn, and you thought it would be funny. Do you understand what he just did? He didn't just hit the target. He tuned the gas system by touch, fixed the fouling, and indexed a 400-meter silhouette entirely from memory. That is mastery. Miller looked sick. He faced Vlad, cheeks burning. Sir, Mr. Surov, I'm sorry. I had no idea. That was the most incredible thing I've ever witnessed. For the first time, Vlad smiled, warm, genuine. Do not apologize for being young, he said. Just remember, the weapon is only steel and wood. The shooter is the weapon. Never judge a tool until you learn how to use it. He bent down to sweep the single brass casing he had fired, but Jenkins practically dove forward. No, sir, please. Let me get that. He grabbed the broom from Vlad's hands. You sit, sir. Please teach us. Show us how you did that field strip. Vlad chuckled. Very well. But first, you must respect the rifle. Every weapon has a soul. The rest of the afternoon became an unexpected masterclass. No more mocking. No more jokes. The Rangers sat cross-legged on the ground like students, while the old janitor-turned-instructor demonstrated blindfolded disassembly, the feel of mechanical timing, how to sense wind pressure on your skin, and the weight of history behind every tool of war. They learned a lesson no textbook could teach. The uniform doesn't make the soldier. The spirit does. And sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the one quietly sweeping the floor. It's easy to mock the enemy's gear, to sneer at what's old, foreign, or unfamiliar. But Vlad reminded them that excellence is universal. A true master can make any weapon sing, whether it's an American M4 or a Russian SVD. He proved that age, politics, language, and borders all fade in the presence of genuine skill. If this story inspired you to look deeper and respect the hidden legends around you, hit that subscribe button. We share the untold stories of the warriors who truly earned their scars. And share this with someone who thinks new always means better. Some legends are timeless.